Morning, everybody. Happy Groovy Tuesday. Oh dear, a bit fresh down here in Kent today. How are we all doing? The weeks just fly by, don't they? I hope you're all well. Busy here at Clarity Towers. You sure did love that half-price dice out at the weekend. Wow. Yeah, really took advantage of the super duper offers that we had in place for you. So I hope you didn't miss out on that. How are we all doing today? Tuesday already. The week, it seems to sort of go in stages. Sort of yesterday was sort of one of those days. I don't know where the day went. Today, yeah, been busy already. Lots to do. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Zena, Susan, Bernie. How are we all doing this morning? So, all ready to rock and roll for another Groovy Tuesday back to basics? I thought what we'd have a look at today is sort of some finishing tricks. Now, we've covered these in the past, but some of you may not have been watching back then. So don't forget you can watch all of the previous episodes of all the Shack, all of the Groovy Tuesdays, Pergamano Summer School, all available on our YouTube channel. So I'm hoping you can hear me. I haven't had the all clear from Jilly just yet, but I know I'm super duper early. Good morning, Josie, Jennifer, Mo. Lots to love it. The lovely Karen. Lots of lovely ladies, and no doubt some gents will be following shortly as I'm a bit early to the party today. Like to be early. Better to be early than late. So hopefully you can hear me. I'm guessing Jilly's probably having issues with her computer at the moment. So if you can't hear me, then sort of just pop a little message up. But I think we're all good to go. The mics are on. I've pressed the right button. Hopefully we haven't got any feedback. So yes, there we go. Good morning, Sue. All the lovely ladies. Welcome. Have you been getting groovy the past week? It's great seeing on Groovy Worldwide all the different projects. I think this is Jilly now. Sound is good. Thank you, Jilly. There we go. I can relax a bit now. That's the only text messages I get from Jilly. Sound is good. Sound is not good. So it's been lovely to see all the different creations that you've been coming up with on Groovy Worldwide. And the design team are always there to help. So if you've got any questions, don't be afraid to ask. No question is a silly question, as they say. Well, that's what I say anyway. But I suppose in some circumstances, there could be a silly question. So yeah, really early to the party today. So another text message from Jilly. She says she loves me. That's because I said I only get a message. Love you too, Jilly. Let's share some love, shall we? Let's love everybody today. Put a smile on somebody's face just by saying I love you. Well, depends who you say it to, really. But yeah. So how have you been getting on with your reefs that we've been creating over the last couple of weeks? I had a bit of a play last week after last week's episode where we were talking about the beautiful Christmas tree sampler plate and how I was saying, let's have a look, where you've got 9 beautiful trees, all illustrated by Barb herself. And for my piece of the artwork I've been created, we just took one of those, didn't we? And we were talking about how we can make quick and easy cards at this time of year for Christmas. And when you look at the designs on the plate, you've got 9 separate designs. Now, you can just choose one of them. You could choose a couple of them. But what I did was, remember we was talking about the Pico squares, and that one of them, which was, I think it was this one, the 4th one from the middle, fits perfectly around each of the trees. Okay, so I thought, right, I'm going to make a point on that. And we were talking about the special offer, it's still going, on the designer parchment, half price. Remember when we had a flick through the various different designs? And what I did was I chose a piece of Shenandoah. I decided on my colour scheme and I went with the Shenandoah. Which one did I go with? I bet I've taken, yeah, it's the last one, I think. Look, I haven't topped it back up yet. I went with the lovely, one of the blues. Okay. But you've got 12 different options in here and you've got 4 sheets of each. So I said to you last week, oh, you can get 4 pieces, you get 4 squares out of a piece of parchment. And somebody popped up on there that if you did like a star when you was cutting out, you'd get 5 pieces. And I'm thinking, a star? What? I wasn't sure. So I gave it a go. And let me show you what I did. So I took 1 piece of parchment. Okay, there we go. I took 1 piece of parchment and I cut the 4 corners out first. And then I put that one at an angle and I got 5. So from 2 sheets of parchment, I got 10 squares. I only needed 9 if I wanted just to keep it nice and simple. So I thought that was a really good tip, and apologies for not remembering who it was that said that. But yeah, because I was just going 1, 2, 3, 4, and then somebody suggested, oh, you could make a bookmark with the offcuts. But this was really made a difference. So from 2 pieces of parchment, I get 10. So you're going to get 4 sheets of the same design. So there you go. And then what I did was, look, I made a little batch of Christmas cards. So I picot cut out the squares, use the picot plate to put the first line in, close this. Let me bring it in on this one so we'll just have a look at one in detail. So then I put the inner line in, and then I used the square that's on the Christmas tree plate. Didn't do any white work, I didn't do any colouring, I didn't remove any of the colour. Then I took a piece of 3x3 card, this is a stencil card, and just trimmed it down so it was a 3-inch square. I used the tape runners to attach the parchment to the card, and then I took the coordinating paper, which is 8x8, and cut that into 4. So from 1 sheet, I get 4 card blanks. And now I've got 9 lovely, quick and easy Christmas cards. Okay. And they're all different. And all I did was I just traced out the trees as they were. I didn't do any additions. I didn't take any of the elements. And that probably took me about half an hour, 45 minutes just to do those. So thank you for that suggestion of how to use the parchment to get 5 pieces. But I was really chuffed with that. So when you look, what I did, I then took another piece of parchment and I cut it all up so I can do my next batch. So I've got a different color tone. You see? I've got all of those. So that's for my next batch. So I might actually get to do some Christmas cards this year. So I was very, very pleased about that. Whether I send them is another matter. Just because I've made them doesn't mean I'll send them. Are you the same? Do you make your cards and then think, oh, I'll send them later, and then before you know it, the last date's been and gone, and time sure does run away, doesn't it? No, was that Josie? So Jane doesn't need to make your Christmas card simple. No, I'm sure Jane can breathe a huge sigh of relief that she doesn't have to make my Christmas cards. Not that she was going to, mind you, but yeah, I just think that's fantastic. From that one plate, I could that's my Christmas cards for this year. And it really doesn't take too much time, honestly. Say half hour, 45 minutes. I did all my die cutting first, then I put all the inner squares in, then I went in and traced out the trees. And what I did, I had a look at the parchment and decided where I wanted to position it first. So some of them are lighter than others. Some of them have got like potentially little landscapes in there. But I just thought it was a really nice, quick and easy way to do it. And it sort of ties in, oops, let's pop those to one side. Let me put those there. And it ties in really of what we've been working with. So this would be a special Christmas card because it takes that little bit longer. But for quick and easy, you really can't go wrong with those. So just putting some ideas out there. And because you've got the designer parchment, you really don't need to add any colour or white work at all. So I just love it. And to have it on that half price offer as well. Okay. Right. Oh, I think that's enough time for people to get settled and pull up a brew. Are you crafting along today, or are you just going to sort of chill and see what I can come up with? I've got a great idea for next week. So, yes. But we shall deal with the week that we have in front of us, one day at a time, as Barb says in the blog. So, talking of blog, you need to check out the blog later today. That's all I'm saying. Okay. So let's have a bit of a recap on what we've done over the past couple of weeks. Okay. So we started off with the beautiful butterfly wreath. And if I lay that over the top, you can see what we've done is we've taken elements of the plate and then we left spaces. So rather than go for a beautiful sort of spring, summer, autumnal type of wreath, I left out the larger flowers. And then what I did was I took different elements from the trees plate, and you could do this with any plate you have in your stash, and we then just enhanced it. So for example, there was a big gap here, so we took this bit and popped that in. We took, where do we get that one from? That one came from here. So again, with the Groovi system, as you get confident, then you get confident with the system, and therefore you think, right, well, what happens if I do this, and what happens if I do that? And if you have a scrap piece of parchment to hand, which I'm sure we all do, we can try things on that first before we actually commit to it. So you could sort of trace out part of it and say, does that work? Do I want to do white work on it? Do I just want to trace it just exactly how it is? And we did exactly the same when we came to add colour. So we used a combination of the Perga pens and the Perga pencils, both the A pencils and the B pencils. With the Perga pens, we used the mix mats and a dry water brush to blend down the colour to get a softer tone. We had a look at how to colour larger areas so that you didn't get sort of any streakiness from it. So if I get a piece of paper and pop that underneath, let's bring it in on this camera. So you can see so this is from the front, and we just use a couple of greens just to build up the different shades. So this is the back. Okay, so on the tree itself, we use the blended down Perga pens. And then on the larger areas, we use the B pencils with some Dorso oil and tissues, because that's an easier way of blending colours in for larger areas. And then the outsides of the leaf, we used a combination of pencils, from the A pencils to the B pencils. So we didn't blend anything there, it was just direct onto the parchment. Okay, now if you wanted to spend that little bit more extra time, you could do that if you want to. You could blend in different colours, but we just try to keep it nice and easy, so that really when it comes to this, there's no skill required in relation to the colour application. But we had choices, didn't we? Do you remember I did my little leaf sampler? If I hold this one up. So what we did was we traced out a leaf. We used the A13 pencil. We used the B7. Then we used the Pergacolor pen with a brush, with the water brush, dry. And then that was the pen direct onto the parchment. And then what I was able to do, because I'd chosen my backing paper, which I took from Toffee Apple. So we've got one side there and another one there. I decided that I was going to go with this colour option. And remember I put a little T at the top because I was happy with the direction of the particular design when I was placing my work down. So really you got 4 different options or 8 really if you look at the other side. So when I pop that on there, I wanted that beautiful red hue from the paper behind to show through, and then the greens and the yellows at the bottoms helps to intensify the color that I've applied to the parchment. Okay, so that's what we've done over the last couple of weeks, and now we want to turn it into a card. Various different options. When we're working with the clear parchment, we're slightly restricted into how we can put it onto a piece of backing paper or onto a card without any sort of glue or the adhesive showing through. So there's various different options we can have. We can use corner punches to create corner effects just to attach it into. We can use brads. We could use the folded method where we score either side and we wrap it around a piece of paper. We could, if we've done white work in areas, we could put some perga glue behind those areas and then use it that way to attach. We could take a die, a picot circle or a square, and create an aperture to pop it behind. We could take our doodle dies and use that to hide up any adhesive. So I thought over the course of this hour, what we'd do, we'd have a look at some different options and see which one suits you. You may have gone directly onto the designer parchment when you've created your design. So you may find that the Clarity roller tape glue runners will do the job nice and easily. Okay. So the most obvious one for me, really starting off, would be our brads. So we've got the brads in all different colour options, and these storage containers are fantastic because what I've done is I've separated out all my different colourways. So I've got my silver, I've got my pastel, I've got black, I've got my antique silver, my white, my gold, and my pewter. Okay, and I may decide that because this is nice and white, I would use white brads, or I may want to use the pastel brads. It all depends on what you've done and how you've coloured in, and the design as well. I mean, these brads are absolutely tiny, and you may not want the brads to to show, but it's all about having those options. Okay. So for example, if I take, let's have a look at the brad option. And I'm going to do this onto these little squares that I've created, rather than, because I still haven't decided myself how I want to attach this. So if I take a piece of parchment and a piece of card, and I've got my design here, and I want to position that and attach with the brads. Okay, what I'm going to need some super foam. So this is our 12 by 12 that I'm using, and I'm going to pop that on there, and then I'm going to take my 1 needle bold tool. Now, some of you at home may already be familiar with this technique. You may use it all the time, but I know that there'll be some people watching and they'll think, oh, quite like the look of this. How do we do this? So that's the purpose of today. Different techniques and different ideas. Okay. So here we go. Make sure you've got a nice deep foam underneath. Decide on what colour. So I reckon for camera purposes, we'll go for black on this one. So take out some brads. See, another benefit of, I mean, can't really see, but the mat is it stops your little brads bouncing around everywhere. Let me zoom in a little bit for you. All right, which way am I going in? There we go. Right. Whoops, he says, falling off his chair. Okie dokie. So 1 needle bold. I mean, if I want to put it on an angle, I can. So you become the designer of where you want it to go. So we'll go there. Then I'm going to perforate in the first corner with the 1 needle bold. Okay, what if I come in on this side? Can we see that? So if I go, there we go. So my 1 needle bold has been perforating through both the paper and the card. Then if I take my brad and I push through and I push in to the foam. So automatically you think, right, I'll pick it up, I'll close the legs on the back of that. No, if you keep that in place, then what it does, it stops your parchment from moving. So now I can come over to the opposite corner, repeat the process. I mean, you may decide just to use 2 brads, 1 in each corner, or you may want to put a brad just at the top. It's entirely up to you. But by using this method, what it does is it keeps everything in place whilst you work. Okay, that one and that one. So that's all held nicely in place. So then you just gently remove it from your foam. And then I find it easier if let's just pop that to one side, work up then on a hard surface, and then we open up the brads to make sure it stays attached. There we go. So that's one way. Let's do it on that one. That's one way now of just attaching your artwork. So if I was going to do that on this piece, then I would trim that down to a nice square so it was equal either side, and then I would use my brads either in each of the corners, or strategically I could use it in the, if going with the white ones, in the little dots, or just randomly to create extra finishing. So that's tip number 1. So let me tick that off on my list so that I know I've covered that. Where's my pen gone? Okay, so brads. Tick. Okay. Option number 1. Let's put the lid back on there. Pop that to one side. Option number 2. I feel like that, sort of like one of those things. Coming number 3. So we've got 4 different decorative corner punches. Okay, and these are one of the first things that we brought out when we introduced the Groovi system. And for me, these are great because not only can you do corners with them, but you can also create borders. Okay, and I'll show you how you can do that as well. So let me zoom out a little bit. I'll go back on the overhead and zoom out. Hey, there we go. Who's got the corner punches? I know a lot of you at home have these. Now, there isn't an exact measurement. If you're, for example, your piece was 3 inches by 3 inches, I wouldn't say to you, right, your piece of card or your piece of paper needs to be 3 3/4 or 3 1/4. They are all slightly different. So there isn't a generic sort of increase in size for using the corners, but there is a really easy way of doing it. So let me see, pick a corner, any corner. Ooh. Decisions. I'm going to go with this one, I think. Okay. So I'm going to take another piece of the little square piece of parchment, because it doesn't matter what size your finished piece is, this technique will follow exactly the same. Okay. So to start off with, let's come in on this camera. What we're going to do, you'll see that it has like a fan at the bottom of the punch. And all you're going to do is take your piece of card and you push it in so it can't go any further. And then press down. Give it a nice crisp punch. And then you get a beautiful decorative corner. Okay. So you've got the first one. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to bring in a different craft mat. I'm going to bring in my cutting mat underneath. Okay. I'm not worried about all the grids. This is just the mat that I use to cut on. I've got a craft knife and I've got my Pergamano ruler that has the Groovi grip on the back. You can see, there you go. And what that does is it stops my ruler from sliding. That I can really, I'm pushing, you can see the color of my finger, how much pressure I'm applying. Okay, if I take the magic Groovi grip off and I do the same, look, it slides around. Not very good when you're working with parchment or card really, but especially if you wanted to just trim down your parchment. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take our piece of parchment, whatever size it is, and we're going to pop it into the first corner that we've created. Okay, and you can see by pushing it into that corner, you've got it's like a sliver of card. And as I say, there isn't an exact measurement. If you're not sure about doing this, what you could do is you could cut a piece of copy paper the same size as your parchment, your piece of artwork, and use that to practice on first. Okay, so I'm happy with that in place there. Then I'm going to take my Pergamano ruler with the Groovi grip, and I reckon the width of this particular border is probably the same width as the metal edge on this ruler. Okay, so I'm going to use the lines on the ruler to make sure that I'm straight going across the top. Let me come in on this one. Will it help if, I know, I've got a coloured piece of paper that Barb left behind from the other day. Let me take that, because I think that will help. If I pop that underneath, it detracts away I can't put white copy paper underneath because it'd be harder to see where the lines are. But if I position that just there, okay, so let me zoom in on that so you can really see. There we go. So you can see how I'm using the line on the ruler to line up with the edge of the card. I can just about see the perforations underneath. And then I'm going to take my craft knife. Now there's no rule to say that you have to cut the piece of card underneath with the first strike of the knife. So I'm just going to go very lightly, several times down the edge. There we go, until it falls away. So we've now got that edge there. Then we're going to turn it round. And we're going to repeat that process. So the line of the ruler across the edge of the card. It's about the width. I can just about see. Let's make sure that's on straight. I reckon so. Hope you can't hear my tummy rumbling. It's when I stand up. Then we're going to position that one there. I'm using the lines. You can't see that. Let me come forward a little bit. I'm also using the lines down here to make sure that I can see that that's slightly, oh, the benefit of this camera. Look at that. I reckon so. Excuse my head for a minute, I'll just come in. Yep. Then several times. If you're not confident with a knife, you could draw a pencil line and then use your paper trimmer or your guillotine or a pair of scissors. It's entirely up to you. There we go. So now we're going to remove our piece of parchment. Then we're going to punch. Let's go back in on this one now. There we go. So we're going to pop our piece of card in, punch there, turn that round, punch that one, turn it around again for the fourth. So again, you have options. You could just do alternate corners, or you can do all four. Okay, so here comes the moment of truth. We're going to pop that one onto there, that one onto there, that one onto there, and come on, play nicely. That one. Come on. All fingers and thumbs. Come on, you will go in. Right, let me sit down. It's because I'm standing up, isn't it? So, fourth one, get my finger underneath. There we go. So now, I've got my picture frame. And this will work in any of the four different designs of the punches. And you can just move it around to make sure, there we go, you're happy. So that's how you would use the corner punches. And then you could pop that onto another piece of paper, entirely up to you. But now what that means is I can use my glue runner on the back of the card, or I could use a wet glue very gently in the corners to attach. Okay, so that's another option. But let me show you how you can use it as a border. Okay, so you get more use out of your punch. So if I take a piece of copy paper, what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how you can empty the bottom. Okay, so when you look underneath, you've got this little sort of arrow. And what you do is you press down and the wings slide out. Okay, they come all the way out and then you can empty it. And you can see there the quality of the punch. Okay, so let's pop that to one side. Let me come in on this one now. Cameras, cameras, cameras. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another piece of card. Now, in order to get it lined up, you need to have a look at the pattern underneath. And then what you're going to do is then punch. Okay, so we can see there now how we've got, it looks like a little man with a moustache, doesn't it? Or is that just me? So we're going to look on the back again. And then because we've pushed in up to the line, I'm going to go along and then I'm going to line it up. Let me come in on this one. I'm going to line it up until I can just see where the other die cut is. Just move it along until I just catch. I'm going to bring it into me so I can see what I'm doing. So I can then just catch the edge, move it along, repeat the same process. I'm going to go back over this way. So always start in the middle and then just move along. So I've got that decorative edge, but now I've got this little decorative edge. So you can create strips. Okay, so this was where we just went in to the edge, and if it was deep enough, yeah, I went that way. I went that way, didn't I? Where's it gone? There it is. Yeah. So you can create a really nice decorative strip down the edge of your card. And what you could do potentially is, if you've got your piece of card that is the same, you could use that as a decorative edge down the side of the card. So what I could do, if I take, let me just take my glue runner. Let me just find where I've popped that. So if I go, this is another option. If I go just down the edge, for example, and I put my piece of parchment there, then I'm going to go back over the top, nice and slowly, pop that on there, and then that is going to hide any glue. So I could do 4 of those and create a frame, or just have it as a strip. So like bookmarks, this would work really well. Okay, so another option, corner punches. When is a corner punch? Lots of corner punch. And then all you do, you'll see that it has like these little grooves in the side, and it has little grooves on the punch. So you just line those up and then click that back into place, and you're good to go then as your corner punch. And you can do that with all 4 of the different designs. Really looks a bit, let me zoom out a bit now. Really. There we go. All these funny noises, where are they coming from? Okie dokie. So corner punches, brads, let's just pop those to one side. Let's just clear this rubbish off. Corner punch as a border. Okay, then let's just pop this in the bin underneath so it doesn't go everywhere. Okay, so brads, corner punches, becoming border punches. Let's have a look at our tape runners, shall we? Really good, absolutely brilliant. Not only for your sort of general crafting, but also for your parchment as well. And you've got the little flap on the bottom, so it protects the end. I mean, I know I've had tape runners in the past and you pull the top off and you lose it, or you drop it on the floor and then you tread on it and then it gets all gunged up. But these are great because really comfortable to hold 30 meters on each one. Now, if I want to use it with colored parchment, like I did with my Christmas trees, okay, the darker the parchment, the better, okay, because the darker it is, the less likely it is to show through. However, saying that, let me just take, I'm going to just trim a piece of clear parchment just to show that it depends what you're attaching it to. Okay, so let me take that piece there and I'm going to chop it into 2 bits just to show you the difference. Okay, take that and I'll take a piece of craft card as well, I think, and a piece of let's have a look, a piece of designer paper. I'm sure I've got a scrap somewhere. What was that one that I was using? It was Shenandoah. So I know I've got a little scrap in there. Okay, there we go. Right. Beautiful piece of Shenandoah paper, the same that I used on my little Christmas trees cards. Okay. Wow, is that the time already? Jeez. Okay. So this is the front of my work. I've done my lovely little Christmas tree and now I want to attach it. So I'm going to work on the back, which is the shinier side. Take my glue runner and then I'm just going to very slowly go down the edge. Give it a little twist, like a little tip forward when you get to the end. Try not to go over the same area twice and try and get it straight if you can. Okay. There we go. So now take my piece of card and position that where I want it to go and press down. So that's now attached. Okay, now give it a chance just to sort of settle. And the only place I can really see it is down this edge. But really, when you look at it, if you've done your piece of sort of your artwork, that's what your eye is going to be drawn to. It's not glaring that, oh, you've used a tape runner to attach it. If you look at my little Christmas cards on the darker one, you definitely can't see it on there. Okay. Now, if I take clear parchment, for example, and we'll put a strip along there, and we attach it to white card, you can't see it. Okay. So if you're going on to white, you can't see it. If I go onto a coloured piece of paper, let's see whether we can see it on the coloured piece of paper. So if we go here, so if you're not sure whether your adhesive will show through, take a scrap of parchment. See, I can definitely see that. Okay, you can see that through there. But isn't it funny how you can't see it on the clear parchment on white card? Now let's see, if I haven't pressed too hard, I should be able, yeah, there we go. I can reposition this now. So let's try it on the back side there. Yep, I can see it on there. Gently remove it from there. Let's try it on a piece of craft card. So attach it so I can see it on there as well. But as I say, don't worry if it's like, if you test it first, then at least you know, right, okay, you're not going to ruin what you spent time doing. Okay, so, and you still have time to gently lift it off before it really takes hold. But if I'd pop that down on my card and because I hadn't tested it, then don't forget I could take these little borders, the corner punches, and I could create a little edge to hide it. Okay, so sometimes there's a way of getting around what we've done. So that's something else I can tick off. So let me tick, I forgot to tick off the corner punches. We've got the tape runners. Okay, one of my favorite ways of attaching is aperture dies. Well, they're not aperture, wrong button. Sort of our nested dies, the circles, the squares, the ovals, the rectangles. You can create an aperture within a piece of card or paper and then pop that over your artwork. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. There we go. And there we go. So I've got this beautiful piece of artwork that's disappeared. There it is. There. Okay. And I've got my lovely backing paper that's going to go behind it. So at this stage, I need to decide whether I want to trim it down and use brads, whether I want to use the corner punches. All will look lovely. But if I take, for example, I've taken my Pico circles onto a piece of craft card, and I've taken the die and I've then created my aperture. So what that means is that I can trim down my parchment. I can then use the tape runner around the outside there, and then position that on there, and then put it onto maybe the backing paper. Now, I may want to go for a larger card blank. So if I take my 8x8, and then I wanted to put my backing paper on there, which I can trim down, I can then trim that down. So then I get the beautiful color coming around on the outside as well. So dies, the basic shapes, whether they be the picos or the normal circles, would be great for another easy way of attaching your work. So maybe when you're planning your design, you may decide, right, okay, I'm going to do a square picture. Let me have a look at the dies that I've got in my stash and whether I've got one that will fit my piece of artwork that I'm going to create. Okay, so that's another option, using the dies to create an aperture. You can create the aperture directly in the card blank and then stick it to the inside and then cover up with one of the beautiful backing papers. That's another option. But I like doing it on a separate piece of card and then having the backing paper so I get the colour coming around the outside as well. So that's apertures. Tick that off the box. Okie dokie. Right. Another way. See, look, I bet you didn't realize there were so many ways of attaching, and I'm probably just covering a few of them. There's definitely more out there. I mean, the traditional way of attaching your parchment to a card, and Linda's often done it on some of the samples that she's created, is where you stitch down the spine of the card. So the parchment wraps around and you perforate with the needle tool, and you do, I think it's called like a bookbinding stitch with invisible thread or with just white cotton or a cotton of the color of the parchment. So that's how it was done traditionally. You could still do that as well. I know you can get those little handheld machines, can't you? So if you wanted to do that and just run the card through and stitch it, doing it that way. Choices. So what else? Doodle dies. Okay. Drop of coffee. Seem to be talking for England today. I hope you're enjoying this and you're getting something out of it. So I've got my folder here where I've used our beautiful doodle dies, and I've cut out, this uses the one die that gives you all these different layers. I recently did a YouTube, it's on the Barb's blog on Friday, on how you can use these. It went with the square ones, but it's the same principle for the circles. But I love that, look at this, just from the designer papers, how you can get some beautiful frames. Okay, so let's have a look at my backing paper and see if there's one that will work. I think, oh, that zesty green one's quite nice. So if I take, let's reach in and pull out the whole piece. Okay, so let's have it. So you've got all these different layers. So now I need to find one. See, look, that looks lovely. What about the next one down? Whee. A little bit too small, but it still works. But I would definitely say that that would be the one to go for. Okay, so what I would do if I wanted to use this to attach my parchment to, then I would take the nested circle dies, which will cut out the circle, the parchment of the same size. Okay, and then, or if I'd done this on a bigger piece, I may just trim that down to a square. But what that means is that I can then take some perga glue. That's quite nice, the reverse. I take some little dabs of perga glue around the outside, attach that to the parchment, and then on the back, I could then put more perga glue and then attach it to my piece. So that's another option. Okay. So doodle dies, tick that off the box. Okay. Dum, dum, dum. Let's pop all that back into its place so I don't lose it. So these are great. If you've got a folder, I'm using the folder for the parchment and the paper to store all mine in. And I've just put a piece of card or paper in there, and I've written down what paper I've used, so that if I wanted to replicate or create the beautiful matte layer, then I know exactly which pad to go for. Okay, pop that to one side. So I'm still undecided on what option to go for mine. What do you think? Brad's corner punches? See, I do like the corner punches. I think they give that sort of look of elegance and the finishing touch. And they're really quite easy to use once you get the hang of it. And again, if you don't feel confident when you first use it, then you know how, let me just show you know how I used I just used a piece of white card, and I took my piece, punched the first corner. This piece of card could be a piece of copy paper. Okay, so I could punch the first corner on my piece of copy paper, measure it out, punch the other four, and if it works, okay, then I could keep that as a template, this piece of copy paper. So if this is, say, like a 3-inch square, then what I could do is I can have my template, and then I could say, right, well, it's a 3-inch square, and then the template is 3 1/4 or 3 1/5 or something. Then I could cut my backing paper to that particular size and then just punch all 4 corners. So that's another option, because once you've done it once, then you think, right, I do a lot of cards of this particular size, so let me use the copy paper or a scrap piece of card as my template, and then I know exactly. It just saves using the craft knife and the ruler every time, because you'll have that as your template with the exact size. Okay, so say for example, look, let's prove the point. So if I take, right, I'm going to really throw the boat out now. So this is I've got a piece of copy paper. This is going to be my finished piece. I mean, it's not, and we'll take one of the other ones. So if I punch that corner, I'm going to pop my piece of artwork just in there. Let's bring my cutting mat back into play. Okay. Then make sure it's lined up. I'm going to take my ruler. So the clear parchment on white paper is a little bit more trickier. But you know what? It's a piece of copy paper. So if it doesn't go right, then I'm not that worried. As long as I don't cut into my work. Okay. Then turn that round. See, I reckon I've gone wrong on this one because I didn't take my time. Because it's white on white, it's harder. Talk about give yourself a tricky job, Paul. But you know what? I'm sure people at home will do the same. Now, I bet if I fold this in half, it's not equal. Yeah, look, well off there. Okay, so let me try something. If I now punch the opposite corner, okay, let's see if it fits top to bottom. Okay, it does. So I'm happy with that, that top to bottom is right. Okay, but I'm definitely off. Look, I can really see it. I knew that because I obviously went on at an angle. But the bottom, I bet if I was to punch this corner. Okay, so again, this is why I've got to stop saying again. So let's see if it fits the width. Yes, that's perfect. So now I know that if I wanted to do an A5 piece and I want to frame it, then that is 15 and 2 little strokes. Okay, so if I take a piece of paper, it's not going to go that way, is it? No. So this is my template now. So 15 and 2 little strokes, 1, 2. And the length is just under 21 3/4. So let's do that one first. Just under 21 3/4. Okay, 21. Do it so you can mark paper. Let's trim this bit down first. Get my trusty guillotine. So we're going to go that way. And then hopefully that's, yeah, big enough just to take that. Okay. Should we see if this works now? Oh, the fun of live TV. So now I'm going to punch each of the 4 corners. Just like that. Make sure you come on play nicely. What is it? I know why. I bet this is, yeah, full up. Get rid of that. Make sure Okay, so that's where I didn't put enough pressure on. So now I'll take my piece of parchment, pop that in there, pop that in there, down the bottom. There we go. Perfect. So that piece of paper, I can now pop in a file and write on it, corner punch, or you can see the corner punch, A5 parchment, and then I know exactly what size my piece of paper needs to be. Okay, so again, you've got those options. If just do it on a piece of copy paper, keep it in a file, write down the size of the piece that's going inside, and then it's easier if you're doing another piece that same size, you know exactly what size you need it to be, rather than keep using the craft knife and the ruler. So yes, I like it when it works, but I like it when it doesn't work to show what you can do. So what else have I got on my list? I can't believe the time is just flying by today. So what have we got on the week ahead? So we're Tuesday today. So on Thursday, it's the last Pergamano show of the year of 2020. No, 2021. Blimey, I've gone back a year. 2021. So I'm on the craft store at 11 and 3. And it's sort of some of my favourites that we've covered over the past 12 months on the craft store, with a few little sprinkles and additions thrown in. So I hope you can join me on Thursday. Thursday also at 10 o'clock, you're back in the Shack with Barb. And Barb's been using the beautiful Toscana designer parchment, which is still on the half price offer. And yeah, so that'll be fun. I'm guessing Jilly or Lucy will be in the room with you because I'll be up at the TV studios getting ready. Then what else have we got? And then, yes, I think that's it. And then Barb can fill you in on Thursday with what else is happening. And next week, what I thought, during the course of this week, in between sort of prepping and stuff, I'll finish this off and then we'll see what I decide to do, whether I go with the corner punches or whether I go with the brads or whether I go with the apertures. We'll see. We'll see by next week. So I thought next week, what we would do is we'd have a look at some embossed pattern work. So this is the A4 square plate mate with the plate that comes in the middle. So you can buy the plate separately or you can buy it together with the A4 square with the extenders plate mate. But I thought we could have a look at some embossed patterns and create some little pieces of some frames and how you can just go. If you're new to doing sort of grid work, this is a really nice way of sort of starting out, because if you're not into your picot cutting, you can get a beautiful decorative finish just by using these. So I thought we'd have a look at this, and then I can show how we can perforate in between. We can picot cut if we want to. We'll just have a bit of a play and show how you can take elements from the different designs. I mean, the platemate itself has so many decorative pieces on it. And I know on the Clarity Matters blog a couple of weeks back, I think it was Jane or Glynis, they created a beautiful piece, a beautiful frame, very easily. I think it was using one of these frames exactly how it comes, or just extending it slightly, with the beautiful butterflies from Cherry Green. So check out the Clarity Matters blog. Every Sunday we do a step-by-step. The lovely Grace in New York puts it all together, and then I just go in and sort of top and tail it. But the design team, Glynis, Josie, Linda, all the lovely ladies, Jane, all sort of compiled that. So there's a full library that you can go back and look at. So that's what I thought we'd look at next week. And again, keeping it simple. It's sort of, in a way, it's a bit like an introduction to grid work. But with this particular plate, you don't need to do any perforating or picot cutting, because you'll get a beautiful piece just by embossing the dots. And there's no counting. It's very relaxing. It's very mindful for me. I know, just pressing into those little dots, not having to count. So, so thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed today and you've picked up 1 or 2 tricks. And you'll have to find out next week what I did to finish off my card. So stay safe. What else was there? No, gone. No, I think that's it. I hopefully see you on Thursday on the craft store. Don't forget, Barb's back again on Thursday with the Shack with the beautiful ginkgo designs and the designer parchment. So thank you very much, and I'll see you all again next week. Enjoy the rest of the week, whatever you're happening, whatever you are up to. Take care now. Bye bye.